What's the most inappropriate time you laughed? This was at a ballet school performance. It was for kids ranging from 5 to 16-year-olds. For one of the younger age groups, they did this thing where one kid pranced from one corner of the stage to the other, and then another kid would do the opposite, in a big X pattern. And they would have these gigantic shit-eating grins on their faces. Just horribly precious. Well, I started losing it at about the 15th kid, but it went on for like 40 children. By the end, I was in tears and all the other adults in the audience near me had found it contagious, so everyone was just sitting there laughing at their own children. I always had a problem laughing when I was being scolded in my childhood. Then I would be scolded further for laughing, then I would laugh more. It was a vicious cycle. I remember hearing that laughing in the face of an angry parent is a natural defense mechanism of some sort. Source: my college psych professor. We were at my uncle's funeral, whose death was a surprise. I was standing with my cousin who just came back from abroad to attend her dad's funeral and was breaking down. My aunt, the deceased's sister, came to tell my cousin that someone we know is apologizing for not being able to attend the funeral because she's in the hospital due to a car accident. My aunt went on describing the woman's very difficult condition and how she had an iron pole stuck into her forehead. 10 minutes later, the woman appears through the door in perfect health with just some scratches. My cousin sees her and looks at me from the other side of the crowded silent room, and we both can't stop laughing for the rest of the funeral. So, she lied about her condition and got called out firsthand? That's hilarious. I don't blame you one bit. A woman we got on stage to sing during a friend's wedding as part of the ceremony. It was naturally a song the bride and groom chose. As soon as she opened her mouth, it became clear that she absolutely tone deaf. It sounded like an animal being tortured. I was trying not to laugh, but two guys behind me started laughing and it set off a chain reaction of laughter. Even the groom was red-faced from trying not to laugh. She just kind of sheepishly left the stage afterward. Me and a friend were altar boys. An older woman took to the podium to read a Bible passage. The passage described how Jesus loves everyone, the sick and the healthy, the rich and the poor, the circumcised and the uncircumcised. That's all it took for a pair of 10-year-old boys to start laughing hysterically in front of a packed church. My computer's teacher in middle school told me he was run over by a car when he was a child. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He was not joking. Pretty similar story for me. I was in high school, this was road safety day, and a cop told us a tragic story that ended with well, he got run over, you know. He said it in such a way, I just couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. At my grandaunt's funeral. She was a big, jolly food lover while alive and is sorely missed. Everything was going along, lots of tears while the vicar was giving the eulogy, until he shared her last words, "Come on. A little whipped cream isn't going to kill me." I lost my shit. This was 10 years ago and I still feel terrible for laughing. My grandma died 2 years ago at 94, and for years she'd been warning everyone that she could die any minute. She was quite healthy for her age. One Christmas she told me which reading I would do at her funeral. One Easter when my uncle from the other side of the family was telling her about his 95-year-old mother, my grandma told him the government should just kill everyone at 95 and get it over with. So her impending death a family joke for over 10 years. Then at her funeral, which she had planned every detail of years before, they played "I'll Fly Away," which is a really dancey, joyous song about dying. It was so her. My sister and I made eye contact, and after that we lost it. We were trying to cover our mouths and faces, but our shoulders were shaking, so my cousins behind us thought we were crying and tried to comfort us. Eventually we were laughing so hard we were crying, so it evened out. I was once hired to sing at a funeral, and right before I was called up, the little boy in front of me ripped the loudest fart. I dug my face into my lady friend's shoulder and my whole body trembled as I tried to keep it together. Within seconds I was at the pulpit and trying to come up with what I would do if I broke out laughing. I sang to the best of my ability at the time with a cough every now and then. We left immediately afterwards and laughed in the car till we couldn't breathe. A few years ago I was participating in a religious ceremony with my extended family. I'm not religious, But my mom and her family are, so I agreed to participate. I was tasked with reading one of the sections aloud and had to read off a list of titles of the Virgin Mary. Most of them were pretty straightforward: Queen of the Angels, Queen Most Holy, etc. But there's one section that starts with the word Virgin. I get to it and I'm trying not to smirk, but as soon as I said the phrase Virgin Most Powerful, I glanced at my brother and my so and they were grinning at me. Their grins caused me to burst into giggles and I had to excuse myself while my mom glared knives into me. My brother continued the rest of the reading. Not the most inappropriate, but when I started my job on L&D, someone was telling another person about a woman whose baby had died. The first person asked, "Oh my God, what happened?" And the second person said it died, and it made me laugh a little because of course it died. The woman wanted to know how. Second was, a nurse approached me recently and asked me to call someone to fix a bed because we were moving a patient in it and it folded and she got stuck in the bed and I lost it. I laughed so hard. A young teenager was leaning forward in a chair at a restaurant, lost traction, and slammed their face into the table. Absolute hysterical sobbing ensued. Their parents stopped eating their salads to make sure they were okay. They were, aside from a nosebleed. I was sitting at the table next to them and cracked the duck up at the sound of them hitting the table, and even more when they started crying. I was a horrible human being in that moment. Feel bad after the fact, but in the moment it tickled me to my core. A buddy of mine tried to fart on the pew in church in Ducking and loaded a dump truckload of shit into his pants on accident. This was during the quiet moment, and I was absolutely howling with laughter. Edit. My highest rated comment ever is the story of my buddy power duking himself in the house of the Lord. What a time to be alive. This is a bad one. We were watching a news report on virus and this lady was talking about her dead mother or grandmother. She was saying adjectives about how she looked when she died. She was this, she was that, and then I hear the legendary line, "She was dead, obviously." Wasn't that funny? But I started chuckling and my family noticed. I tried to stop but actually couldn't. Had to excuse myself after they continued to make statements which I found hilarious. Funniest and most evil 10 minutes of my year. In a technology class a couple years ago, for whatever reason we were having a talk about Kermit the Frog, and my teacher told the class to quiet down and stop Kermit. Someone then said in a completely quiet classroom, in a flawless Kermit voice, "I never die." When my college professor tripped his voice, we didn't even notice it at first because everyone was busy listening and taking notes, but when the classmate sitting next to me tried to copy it, I lost it and burst laughing. The teacher thought I was making fun of him and got mad. I couldn't even explain to him because I was just laughing the whole time. He had to ask me to leave his class because I just couldn't stop. Edit. Lol guys, sorry, English is not my first language. I dunno what it's called. You know when you're talking and your voice suddenly sounds different mid-sentence. I dunno, but you get the picture. I still laugh when I think about it, lol. My daughter was in probably first or second grade and she was doing an online math homework where she had to answer a bunch of math questions and it would give her percentage correct at the end and then re-ask the ones she missed. She was down to one question and got it wrong, so she got 0% correct. She bust out crying because she got 0%, and for some reason I thought that was so funny that I bust out laughing and couldn't stop. And then she got even madder and cried harder because I was laughing at her, which made me laugh harder, which made her cry harder. Was working at a sign shop and me and this other guy were drilling holes into some wood paneling when the other guy said, "Hey look," and acted like he was going to drill into the side of his head. The drill bit he was using was one of those flat and wide ones used for boring larger holes, and while it was spinning it grabbed a hold of his hair, ripped out a chunk, and left a perfectly round half-dollar-sized bald spot on the side of his head. I had to set down whatever I was doing since I was laughing so hard, and I kept apologizing to him for doing so. He told me the next day that his girlfriend reacted the same way I did. Marine Corps boot camp. After evening showers in the barracks, you line up wearing only a towel, for the health and comfort inspection. The barracks, back in those days, at least, was a long open room, with bunk beds on each side. So, of course each side lines up facing the center of the room, looking straight ahead as the drill instructors make their way down the line. As they get to you, you are supposed to drop your towel, put your hands above your head, spin around and recite, "Sir, this private has no personal or medical problems at this time, sir." The problem was, the guy directly across from me was able to flex his pecs, individually. He thought it would be funny to do that, right when it was my turn to get inspected. So, about 3 seconds before I have to drop my towel, he starts rapidly flexing one then the other. I cracked up and barely got my line out. We both did a lot of push-ups and mountain climbers that night. Thanks for watching. Please, feel free to leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe.